everybody and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to make the best bearded dragon substrate. Now I use this substrate in all my bearded dragons enclosures and even some of my Uramastix enclosures. It's incredibly cheap. You get a ton of it for the price, and my bearded dragon females have laid eggs in it. That's how great it is. I don't need a dig box. I just have this. They go, they dig a burrow, they lay their eggs, they cover it back up. It's a wonderful, wonderful substrate. Not only that, it's a wonderful substrate if you want to go bioactive. I have plants growing in my substrate. I have little isopods going crazy. It's a great substrate, not only for just the bearded dragons, but for a bioactive. You want isopods, you want springtails, this will do just as well. So let's get started. I'm gonna show you where to get it and how to make it. To make this substrate, you only need 3 ingredients. I use organic peat moss, play sand, and timberline topsoil. I like timberline because it's more clay other than giant sticks like the more popular Scott's topsoil. You can find this at any garden center, Home Depot, and Lowe's. The entire price of this is just under 30 bucks. Beware though, if you don't have a lot of enclosures, you're gonna have a lot of leftover substrate, even if you've put 5 inches of substrate in for a 4x2x2 tank. To mix it together, I use a big tub, like an 18-gallon Sterilite tub. To start the mixing, I do add an entire gallon of water. The peat moss will be extremely dry when you open it, and you need to rehydrate it. After adding the gallon of water, I then start adding the peat moss and start mixing it until the water is absorbed and the soil is perfectly wet. If you have too much water, you can add more peat moss until all the water is gone and it's not dry, but it's not soaking wet. I then add the topsoil. Now, unlike a lot of other popular recipes for substrate, I don't add a lot of topsoil. If the entire mix was a percentage, topsoil would consist of about 15% of the entire mix. I just add a little bit. Next up, we're gonna add the play sand. Now again, I don't have an exact ratio for the play sand. I just add it until I see enough play sand in the mix throughout. The entire ratio of this would probably, to my best guess, be 50% peat moss, 35% play sand, and 15% topsoil if I had to take a guess. Now, if you do see a lot of topsoil in this mix that you're seeing right now, it's because the bag ripped open when I was pouring it and emptied mostly in the bucket. But it's still a good mix. So don't be too worried about an exact ratio, because I use this mix that you're seeing in the video and it still worked great. And this is what you do to test it to make sure it's gonna be some great substrate for your bearded dragon. I bring it up and I squeeze it and see if it clumps together. If it clumps together good enough to where it seems like it's gonna hold a burrow, it's done. The reason I do this is because my bearded dragons love to burrow, they love to dig, and if it clumps up nicely, you are finished and you can add it to their enclosure. Also, don't worry about it being too wet. It dries out in a couple of days. And that's all. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, drop those down in the comments.